Hi, my name's Andy,
And I'm Jason.
and this is the Power 2 Pod. We're going to continue our off-season series here where we're doing some team breakdowns for all the teams in the Big Ten and SEC. This episode's going to be Purdue, the Boilermakers. So looking back at last season, it was Ryan Walters' first season, and Purdue went 4-8 and 3-6 in the Big Ten. Like I said, head coach Ryan Walters, he's returning for his second season this year. If you're looking back at 2023, kind of to point out like what was a marquee or best win they had, it was probably Virginia Tech early in the season where they defeated the Hokies 24-17. That was probably the most significant win that they had in Walter's inaugural season there. And then let's move on to kind of some roster movement that they experienced off the offseason.
Yeah, with the transfer portal, Purdue ranks 22nd. They had 29 players transfer out and 17 coming in. You know, that's kind of common as you see it when you get these lower tier conference teams that other teams will likely come and take a lot of your good talent, and then you got to try to just reload with recruits of your own and transfers of your own. The recruiting class is currently ranked 30th, which is 9th in the Big Ten, and they were able to get 3 4-stars to commit to Purdue.
Yeah, and looking at those transfer portal numbers, I mean, that's a lot of roster turnover. Hopefully for Purdue, for the better, kind of maybe cleared out some of the people that didn't buy into Walter's scheme or philosophy and brought some guys in that'll fit it a little bit better. If you're looking at some key players that Purdue lost in the transfer portal, the biggest one was they lost Nick Scarton, defensive end at Texas A&M. By far, he was their best defensive player last year, especially in the trenches. And if you look at it, they actually lost 7 wide receivers to the transfer portal too. 7 receivers transferred out. So pretty much completely rebuilding that room when it comes to players in and out. That's a lot of players transferring out. And you're looking at players they lost to the draft. They actually lost 2 players to the draft. Running back Tyrone Tracy Jr., which has kind of been a mainstay there in the backfield for Purdue for a few years. And then safety Sanisu Kane, who was also a big player for them in the secondary. So if you're looking at kind of like the impact players, Purdue kind of lost quite a bit there in the transfer portal and the draft.
Yeah, for sure. And with the incoming transfers, they tried to fill some of those voids. They were able to get Nyland Green, cornerback from Georgia. And then they also tried to rebuild that wide receiver room. Nyland Morissetti, and then a guard from Notre Dame as well. And like I said, those players are more than likely gonna make a direct impact to this Purdue team and just trying to reload that roster from what they lost. Some of the freshmen to watch for this Purdue team would be cornerback Terrian Grant, and offensive line Jaden Ball. And then they have another wide receiver, Traymar Harris, that they think is going to make a direct impact for that rebuild of that wide receiver core.
Yeah, and I think those are the 3 4-stars that they signed this year. Besides, the 7 wide receivers transferring, I think they lost most of their corners too. So that's why you see, the incoming and the freshmen to watch. There's a cornerback in the list, is because that's area of need and will provide instant playing time for these players. Most important thing when you're looking at a team anymore is who's at quarterback. Purdue's actually returning a pretty experienced quarterback in Hudson Card. He played for Texas a couple years ago and started most of the season last year for Purdue. So kind of getting, familiar with the offense, getting to know, the ins and outs of the offense should only help Hudson Card and help this Purdue offense, which kind of lagged behind the defense with Ryan Walters being a defensive-minded guy. Bringing Hudson Card in bringing him back, I should say, should really help this offense with continuity, and hopefully they can find a couple receivers to catch the ball for him. On the defensive side, their leader this year is going to be the safety Dylan Theinman. he was a monster last year. I mean, he was freshman of the year in the Big Ten. He had over 100 tackles for Purdue and a lot of game-breaking plays, interceptions. I believe he had a couple returned for touchdowns. So he really led that defense last year, and that was as a freshman. So, he's only coming back more experienced with more knowledge and should be ready to play.
Yeah, he had a really impressive first season with Purdue, and I'm sure they're definitely excited to have him back. Looking forward to, or looking into their schedule, and one of their more important games, I think, for them would be Wisconsin. With, like you said, Ryan Walters going into his second season. He's matching up against Luke Fickell, which I think is in his third season. So it's kind of a similar, like, trying to make their mark in the Big Ten, making sure that, they can win those tough games in the Big Ten. So I think Wisconsin is definitely a game that would be a priority for Purdue.
Yeah, if I'm looking at kind of like most important game, because if you're Purdue, you're just looking to build on that 4-8 and maybe sneak into a bowl game. You're not competing for the conference title, not with the likes of Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Iowa. You're not in that class as of yet. So you're really looking at, hey, what game do I need to win to get to 6 wins? If I'm looking at schedule, I'm going the Nebraska game. Just because there's so much unknown with Nebraska. They're supposed to be improved, but at the same time, that could be a winnable game for Purdue if Nebraska can't reverse their trend of losing to teams they should beat. So that's why I circled the Nebraska game as an important game. But like I said, for Purdue, I think this season they're looking to get to 6-6 and make a bowl game of some sort. With that said, that'll wrap up our breakdown of the offseason here for Purdue. Like, review, subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys later.